Reynolds in a moment. Kings NBA in a moment after the Kings and the Lakers tonight. I'll be right back here with Ryan in Sacktown. We'll have our post-game show. Looking forward to that. We've got a lot going on, and it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you right here to If You Don't Like That with Grant Napier on YouTube, and we're on Facebook Live, and of course on Twitter. It's always awesome to have you. And again, coming up in just a moment, Jerry, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by New Works Plumbing of Sacramento. Locally owned for over 20 years, New Works has a fix for you. For your plumbing needs and repairs, just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. That's sackserviceplumbing.com for all of your plumbing needs and repairs. So we're going to get right to it in a moment. It will be Jerry Reynolds momentarily. And indeed, and it is an absolute pleasure to welcome in Jerry. Merry Christmas, sir. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Grant. Great to be with you, and wish you a happy holiday. The fans out there, great time of the year. So, just get back to winning basketball games. Everything will be wonderful.
If anyone wants to know why you and I migrated out west and spent most of our lives in California, the reason is very simple. All you got to do is look at the weather forecast the next few days in the Midwest. You growing up in Indiana, I went to college in Ohio. And, after you experience that for a few years, you're like, okay, how on earth do I get the hell out of here? And then we did that, Jerry.
Yes, we did. And, I spent 10 years in the Kansas City, Missouri area as well, which is really worse weather than Indiana almost always. So, boy, never go back. I mean, wonderful people. I had great experiences, but no, this is where it needs to be.
Jerry, let's back up a little bit. We talked to you last on Wednesday, and the Kings were able to bounce back and make that a good road trip at 3-3 with wins at Toronto, and then they followed it up with a win at Detroit. But I thought that Toronto game was a game where this Kings team, I shouldn't say this Kings team, but the Kings teams of the past would have lost that game. I thought that was such a big win, finding a way to win a game in a place that, has been difficult to play. Now, since then, the Raptors are on a little bit of a skid, but that night, that game, I thought that was a really, I don't want to say it was a turning point game, but it was a big game in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, I didn't really give them much chance going into it, back to back, going through all the customs and all the hassle, as what a pain in that always was, an extra hour and a half of before you can get to bed and get your stuff put away, things like that. So, and they're a talented, good team, and so they're struggling now, but that was a big win. And then of course, then you got to close it out, which they did against a bad team, the Pistons. So it's a terrific road trip. I thought. I mean, to be 3-3, I'd said. Before I said if it had been 2-4, I would have thought okay, but to be 8-8 on the road, that's terrific.
Jerry, I think you and I are in the same boat. I think fans complain way too much about officiating. You can't talk about the officiating 82 games a year, especially when each and every game you have different officials. But with that said, had Fred VanVleet, as Dorian said, if he had made that last shot after he pushed off and pushed down De'Aaron Fox. And by the way, the league came out in the 2-minute report and said that should have been an offensive foul. It's mind-boggling to me how officials can miss a call of that magnitude. And again, had that 3 gone in, all right, can you imagine the outrage? And it would have been justifiable.
Yeah, I think it's really been a bad year for the officials. I don't like to spend that much time because generally speaking, the best teams win the most games, and the worst teams don't. I mean, I think that's been through history, but definitely there have been some really, I think, situational things, especially late in the game, to where, what are you watching? Make the calls. And, I mean, it seems to me like, the officiating crews are a little bit afraid to blow the whistles. It's like, if it's a violation, call it. It doesn't make any difference. The old thing. Well, let the players decide. No, that's why you have officials. If the
Right.
players decide, they call their own fouls, and I
That's why
don't
you
think
have
we all want
rules.
to see that.
Right.
And so, yeah, really, yeah, I mean, it is one of those things too, where watching all the games and different broadcast crews, and every broadcast crew just seems like thinks their team's getting screwed. Well, they
It's
all can't be
unbelievable.
getting screwed,
No,
but I
it's
mean
unbelievable.
that is part of the cause is because of some clear, obvious mistakes.
The other aspect, talking about officials, they are trying to crack down on carrying the ball, which thank God, and traveling, and thank goodness. And these type of changes aren't going to happen overnight, but it's much needed. I mean, the traveling in the NBA has gotten so out of hand, as has the carrying. I mean, you and I used to do games, and we watched guys carry the ball, and we would point it out. We just couldn't believe that it wasn't being called.
I always remember Chris Webber standing on the top of the key there, running the Rick's offense, and he'd be moving his pivot feet. He'd move two
Like
or
he was
three
at a
steps in
dance,
each direction,
right?
holding the ball, trying to find the cutter. And it's like, wow, what possibly could? Yeah, but yeah, it needed to be done, and I'm glad they seem to be watching that a lot closer. And I think they still let some obvious travels go and then called some. I noticed a call the other night on Gordon Hayward in the post. He didn't move his pivot foot. He came to a stop and just turned on the same pivot foot and shot a shot. And it's like, well, you guys are struggling too hard here. Just call what you see. The pivot foot's a pivot foot. That's all you have to look at.
Speaking of Gordon Hayward, that was a horrible loss to come home to. I mean, they gave up 39 points in the first quarter, and I wasn't that surprised by that. You and I both know from being in the league for so long that first game at home after a long road trip can be a little stagnant, particularly early in the game. Generally, in the second half, it shouldn't be. And that's what concerned me of that game, the fact that Charlotte was able to score 34 points in the fourth quarter after playing the night before. This is a team, Jared, that had lost 8 in a row. They entered play with the worst record in the NBA. There's no other way to chalk that up. That's a bad loss for Sacramento.
Oh, it was a terrible loss. You can't excuse it. And I'm like you, I know, coming off a road trip, I can't always explain it, but it's true. It happens
Hmm.
to just about every team in the league for whatever reason. I think teams come off the road, they're happy about themselves. They spend a night or two at home. They get comfortable. I've always said this. I don't know if you would agree, but I think even when I was doing broadcasting with you, sometimes after a long road trip, coming in to do the next game at home, I'd kind of not be as prepared. Just like
Exactly.
I'll drive in there and get to it, and I think that's if it happens, I'm pretty sure it happens with players. And as you said, boy, the signs were there that first quarter. But I'll tell you the one that really shocked me, and I remember telling Mrs. Reynolds there at the start of the third quarter, I said, well, they're going to come out and try to establish who's going to win this game, and they didn't. And to me, that was a real clue, that
Yep.
okay, they're going to be in for a slog all night long and come down to a play or two.
Back to what you were just talking about, even as a broadcaster, here's the reality. You come back home, and so your wife's been taking care of everything. If you have kids, you want to spend time with your kids, your wife, you want to do all of those things. And if you're you and I, all right, we have errands we have to run, and we have people that we are scheduled to see, and our schedule gets very busy. When we're on the road, our schedule's not busy. We don't have anything to do other than the games. And if you're traveling, but you don't do anything during the day if you don't want to, because you're in a hotel room. If you want to go out for a walk or go out to lunch or whatever, you can. But as soon as you get home, that all changes, and you got the honey-do list and you have everything else. And for players that have families, it's the same deal. And I really think there's a lot to that, Jerry.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, it just has to be when you think about it. I mean, it's still, it at the end of the day is you got beat by a bad team, and you deserve to get beat
Yep.
by that team because they played better and played harder consistently.
All right, let's talk about Domantas Sabonis, who, by the way, was at shoot-around this morning with Harrison Barnes. So they are both expected to play tonight against the LA Lakers. I know it's a relatively small sample size based on his tenure in Sacramento. Where would you place him right now among Kings bigs? And I'm talking about since they moved from Kansas City in '85.
He is the best. He's the best. Uh, he's not as talented as Weber, physically, but he gets more done. And his, he's like a, a Bloody Divac more than Weber with tremendous stamina. I mean, I just can't get over how he runs and competes on every play. No, his production proves it. But other than Jokic, there's not a better big in the West for sure. Anthony Davis may be more talented, but he don't play, so who cares?
Right. All right. So Sabonis's best attribute is what?
I think unselfishness. He's a totally unselfish guy that I don't think looks for stats at all, which is other than Vladi, I can't think of a player over the years that was like that.
Mhm.
Now he gets stats because then he is so skilled. I mean, he's shooting 40% of threes now. Now I know he's not that good a shooter, but I
Sure.
mean, he is highly skilled. His footwork is the best, and sets the best screens in the league, and probably the most screens in the league. And he is always looking. You can tell he is looking to push the ball, get in transition, get his teammates a good shot. And I just think, I mean, he's all-star for sure, and certainly ought to be, if he continues to play like this, should be in the top 5 for MVP.
Yeah. Cody has just hit on the text line, and we'll bring that up, that Wally Zerbiak on MSG the other night referred to Tyrese Halliburton as a wannabe all-star. I couldn't believe it. And I like Wally, and you and I we talked
Yeah.
to Wally, but I thought that was a ridiculous comment by Wally. I thought he really went out of the way to jump on Tyrese Halliburton. He obviously doesn't watch Tyrese Halliburton play very often.
Yeah, it's uncalled for. I mean, I know Tyrese didn't have a particularly strong game that game, and he has stats that went down a little bit lately because teams are preparing for him more. But he's playing at an all-star level. Don't know if he'll make an all-star team, but yeah, that was one of those things that, why would you do
Ridiculous.
that? Why would you do that? And so I just, yeah, it really came to me for Wally because he's such a nice guy. It really surprised me.
All right, so the Kings make that trade last year, and I know you talked to Larry Bird, and Larry's a huge fan of Sabonis. And I remember you telling me, "Wow, Larry thinks the Kings that they're going to do very well in this trade." He didn't say Indiana would not do well, but he thought the Kings got themselves a hell of a player. And you have to remember, Jerry, and you went through this with the Owens for Mitch Richmond trade. A
Yeah.
lot of people jumped on the Kings case and said, "What the hell are they doing?" Nobody's saying that now.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things. I mean, I thought Larry made several good points. Of course, he wasn't involved in the trade or working for the
Right.
Pacers at that time, but of course, he's the guy that brought him to the Pacers. But he said, in his opinion, Sabonis is the guy you build franchise around, not trade to get
Mhm.
somebody. And he said, I'm a fan of Halliburton's, but he's a guard, and there's when you look at the draft, there's going to be guards out there, but where do you get a guy like him? And he said, uh, and I agree. I mean, I realize the age thing, it comes into play to a degree, but that's what I thought when Monty made the deal. As much as I liked Halliburton, I said, well, this is a great deal for the Kings because they're getting a player that they couldn't get any other way. They're not going to be able to draft a Sabonis unless you're first, second, or third type, and probably not get one then. So no, it's a good move. And I mean, Pacers were looking to kind of redo their team,
Mhm.
and people would say, well, the Pacers, they should have traded Miles Turner. Well, yeah, but you can't get a Halliburton for Miles Turner.
That's
And I
right.
think they're finding that out. I mean, that's a myth. I mean, the guy on that team was never Miles Turner. It was Sabonis.
Well, again, the trade has worked out well for both teams. All right, let's get to the game tonight. Again, at shoot around, Sabonis and Barnes participated this morning. That's a good sign. Yeah, the Lakers are coming off a game where they missed Anthony Davis. LeBron didn't play against Phoenix. The Lakers They're not a playoff team, Jerry, not without Anthony Davis. And, even if Anthony Davis at some point in the season comes back, you can't count on him for very long. I look at the Lakers right now, Jerry. I don't see them as a top 10 team in the West.
I don't either. I mean, no, Davis, you'd have to tell me that Davis is going to play the next 40 games or so.
Yep.
And I'd say, well, there could be a chance, but the way they are, and like I say, you just can't do that. There's no reason to believe that that's going to happen. And then certainly LeBron himself, I'm not sure he can. You could be sure that he can play 40 straight games here going down the stretch. So, no, I don't see them moving into the picture. And I mean, you might be able to say, well, the Warriors could get in there, but then they're out
not without
too.
Steph Curry.
But not without Steph Curry. No, that's one thing about that.
Yep.
In case anybody needed any verification right now, of course, Clay's not Clay, and that team, all the young guys that I thought would be a good bridge to the next really good team are proving that maybe they're not.
Jerry, how do you explain, and maybe you can't explain it, Kevin Huerter's free throw shooting percentage this year, which is down significantly? It's like almost 15% lower than it was last year, unless he has some type of injury to his hand that we're not aware about, and which can happen. It's mystifying to me.
Well, it's mystifying. And like I say, if he wasn't such a good 3-point shooter, you might say, well, there is something wrong mechanically. But when you can shoot the ball deep as well as he does, no, it's got to be in the mind, and I think for the only analogy I can come up with, and is golf, to where guys, really great players, get the yips over 4-foot putts.
Yep.
It's a nervous thing, and sometimes they get over it, and sometimes they don't. And if they don't get over it, they usually quit playing professional golf.
How long did you caddy for? You used to be a caddy in French Lick, right?
I did. I caddied in the LPGA. They had a LPGA Women's Open in 1960.
How about
and
that?
And of course, in those days, they didn't travel caddies because they couldn't make enough money. Mickey Wright won, great Mickey Wright, and I think the prize was $1,500. And I caddied for Marlene Bauer Heggie, and I don't know if I did a good job, but I don't remember what I made.
How much did you make? How much money did you make carrying the
I
bag?
think I made $80 for the week, and that was, but on a full-time job, would have made about 50. So it was a good deal for me, and so yeah, she is a nice lady, and she was had won quite a bit. So yeah, it's a good experience. Good experience.
Yeah, but you never played golf, though, right? You always
I did play, and I'll tell you why. I was pretty good early on, and my younger brother Jeff's a couple of years younger. He became really good, and scratch golfer, went to state in golf, played in college golf as well as basketball. But he was better than me. And being the front running little spoiled entitled shit that I was, I was better than him in everything, and I just couldn't stand it. So I just quit playing. So so that's all there was to that. I mean, I said, if I can't beat him, I ain't playing.
Okay. Well, just so you know, Gary or Jerry, there's still a chance. Gary Player is still playing golf. Lee Trevino still swinging the club. I mean, I see Jack Nicklaus, at the Masters, put that ball on the first tee on the ceremonial first tee and hit the ball. So I still think there's time for you to take up the game, Jerry.
Well, it's a great game. I love to watch it. I other than basketball, I probably would prefer watching golf, and I watch, the all PGA and LPGA Champions events. I mean, because those players, they know it's on them. They can't run to the officials and bitch and complain if they hit a bad shot. I mean, it's on them. And so I admire them. I mean, I realize how tough the game is. But no, I don't miss playing it.
All right, let's get back to tonight's game. I really like what Mike Brown had to say after the Charlotte game. He said, hey, we didn't deserve to win this game. We didn't come out and play the way we're capable of. And he goes, I think this will be a good reality check for us. We're going to find out tonight about the reality check after losing that game, because let's not kid anyone. Without Anthony Davis on the floor, and we don't even know about Westbrook, this is a game that the Kings absolutely, positively should win, even if LeBron has a Superman game?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons. I mean, the Kings obviously, I think, are the better team. They're at home. They had a stinker the game before. It's the Lakers. You know, you can't beat them enough to suit me, or bad enough. So there's all kinds of reasons, and you know, and I think I think Coach Brown is a breath of fresh air that way. There's nothing to
He doesn't
kind of
sugarcoat
gloss
anything.
over. It was a crappy
Right.
game, and the team that deserved to win won.
Well, and then you got Washington coming in on Friday, and they've got the longest losing streak in the NBA at 10. I think it's going to go to 11 before they get to Sacramento. So, these games are so important on the heels of giving one away the other night, because you got Denver coming in for back-to-back home games next week. And the last time I looked, they were pretty good. Boy, that was a really impressive game for Denver last night to hold Memphis to that type of scoring output. I mean, the Nuggets, they're really good. They're a good
They're
team.
really good. I do think they're the best in the West. And when you look at the schedule, how many more road games they've played than anybody else in their
Yep.
road record, I think that's a real indicator. And then, of course, they've got, one of the two or three best players in the world leading them. I thought Washington maybe beat Phoenix last night. But they're a team that has been
Did
struggling.
they beat Phoenix last night? I didn't even see that.
Yeah, I think so. I think I think that's who they played.
I'll look it up right now. Yep.
Yeah, and
Which is shocking. They won 113 to 110, which is shocking to me that they went in there and beat Phoenix. I did see some of the video, and I didn't see the end of the game. I did see some of the video where, once again, DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams were going at it in a huddle. I really wonder what the real story is going on there because of what happened last year in the playoffs. And listen, it's not unusual or uncommon for a coach and a player to get into it during the huddle, but the fact that it was Ayton and Williams, people are going, what's
and
going on?
there was one little incident, I watched some of it, where Mikal Bridges seemed to be getting into it with Ayton. So, the way they're playing, I mean, they're a good team, but they're not, they won 64 games last year. And they're not on any kind of a pace like that. So I think there could be a few little issues there.
Well, but, a big part of that's Chris Paul's been, out of the lineup for so long. All right, Kyle Kuzma last night had 29 points, and they ended their 10-game losing streak, and they were playing without Kristaps Porzingis. So it was a non-COVID illness without Porzingis, and they still went into Phoenix and won the game. So pretty amazing. Bradley Beal had 16 points in the fourth quarter for the Wizards, who only won for the 12th time against 20 losses. So, yeah, I had not looked at the score, and I forgot to look at it today before I came on the air. That's a hell of a win for Washington.
A great win. And, and Beal had been out quite a bit.
Yes.
And so, obviously, him being back, he's a guy – kind of a Mitch Richmond type that can go get you 25, 30 any night against anybody. And so their Kings are probably going to see a little different team than what most of the league has seen most of the year because Beal missed so many games.
Jerry, you and I talk about Keegan Murray every week. Should fans be concerned with his inactivity on the boards when he's playing 30 minutes and some nights he's only getting 1 or 2 rebounds?
Absolutely. He seems to have good instincts for the game. We're seeing him get steals and things like that. But, the reason the Kings may not make the playoff, and the main reason is rebounding.
Right.
You got one guy gets them all, and you can't count on Sabonis, basically getting 15, 18 rebounds. Keegan Murray and Barnes. Barnes is way better than Keegan, but they're both. I think Barnes is a little over 5 rebounds a game. That should be at least 6.5 to 7, and then Keegan is less than 4, and that should be 6 or 7. And the minutes they play, and really that has to happen because De'Aaron Fox is doing an outstanding job on the board. He's getting 5 a night, and so. Yeah, that'd be my concern, and I would certainly make it if I were Coach Brown. I'm sure he and his staff is that Keegan, you've got to do better on the boards. I don't really think he's a power forward. I think eventually he'll be probably Harrison's replacement at small forward. I think that's
Hmm.
his more natural position, but it really doesn't make squat difference. I mean, at the end of the day, your two forwards have to get more than 9 rebounds a game.
Thanks for the heads up that Devin Booker didn't play for Phoenix either last night, so that makes a difference. All right, so we talk about rebounding. We talk about you made a great point. I want to say this was probably 4 weeks ago, and you don't normally make good points every show, but
Not
you
everyone, no.
no, but you had, I'd have to grade you out pretty high since we started doing this. I got to be honest
Yeah,
with you, Jared. I'm a tough teacher, but I'd have to give you a no lower than an A. I don't know if I
well,
would give you an A plus, but you're an A.
I've been, I want to, make you proud, so I prepare a little bit, believe it or not.
Yeah, but you said this about a month ago when I asked you if Fox or Sabonis is more valuable to the Kings, and you didn't really hesitate, and you said Sabonis. I can't imagine the Kings right now playing a game without Sabonis. They would be in deep, deep trouble. And we talk about playoffs. Listen, it's only December, and there are a lot of games left, and we don't have a crystal ball. But you better pray, Kings fans, that Sabonis does not injure himself and miss any length of time, because this team will be in trouble.
Yeah, he's got to play 75 games this year.
Yep.
I mean, they can, it's like anybody can kind of get by without a main player for a game or two. Guys will suck it up, and and I like I say, I don't have any doubt about him being the most valuable. And I think it's not a slap at Fox. I think he's been terrific. He had a little bit of a slump, but overall, I mean, I don't know what more you could expect from him, and he's doing what he should do. He's a scorer. He's a scorer and a very efficient, productive scorer, and trying to play defense better. And as I pointed out, he's getting 5 rebounds a game from the guard spot. That's outstanding.
Well, here's the other deal about Fox. A lot of people want to gloss over. He did injure his knee, and it was diagnosed as a bone bruise on his knee, which can linger for a couple of weeks. And Fox doesn't like to miss games. He's not a guy that's, asking to sit out. If he's not 100%, he's still going to say, Coach, I can go. He's going to tell the trainers. That's his MO. That's what he's all about. So, yeah, he did not play well for a stretch after he was named the Western Conference Player of the Week. He had, again, injured his knee a little bit and played through it, only missed, I think, 1 game, maybe 2 games. So I also look at that. That could have been a reason for his struggles.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. And I agree with everything you said, because he had some productive games even when he was hurt there, and like you say, he was trying to play, and I like that, because honestly, and I know being old school or just old, that's the way it used to be. Top players tried to play even when they weren't 100%.
Yep.
And too many guys now, if they're not 100%, they won't trot out there. And I don't know if it's always the players or sometimes the trainers in today's game, and doctors, overcompensate a little bit. That you can have a bruise on your rear end and still play.
Garrison wants to know, can you tell us the difference between a personal rebound and a team rebound? If a team takes a shot and the ball goes out of bounds without anybody gathering possession, it's a team rebound for the team that gets possession. All right. That's best way. Sometimes there isn't a rebound because the ball, will hit the rim and go out of bounds, or a ball is fought for on a rebound. No one has possession, but it still goes out of bounds. That's a team rebound, depending on who last touched the ball.
Yeah, it's one of those things that stat wise, I mean, at the end of it, every missed shot has to be accounted for.
Yes. You know that very well. You coached the Kings for a couple of years. You know that all those shots were accounted for.
We knew all about missed shots.
Yeah, but they had to be accounted for. Unfortunately, they didn't count on the scoreboard in favor of the team that you were coaching.
No, not often enough. Not often enough.
Oh my God. I was thinking back to when you coached. Really, correct me if I'm wrong here. I mean, you had a lot of guys that were very good offensive players. You just couldn't stop anybody.
Well, there's two things there, I think, and I think it points out how the league is. I always thought we had pretty good starting units.
Yes.
You might not, you didn't have a top 20 guy in the league, so that tells you you're not going to go compete at the top. But our problem was we never had a bench. And so once you got
That's right.
key guys hurt, you just weren't the same. And, it's like the old deal of, Rick Adelman can look down there and see Bobby Jackson or Hedo Turkoglu. Well, I was looking down there and seeing guys that probably should have been in the G League. And
Hey,
so,
and then you'd go to Luke. You'd go to Luke and go, hey, Luke. We really need to help out our bench. We need to go outside. Well, what was the response from Greg Lukenbill when you did that?
well, at that time too, money was such a factor.
Yes, it was.
And I mean, I understood that. I mean, it's not in today's game. Just getting an assistant coach was a big deal, or getting a guy on a 10-day contract was
Yeah.
something that people really pondered over. Will he help us at all? I always remember Jim Thomas saying, how many games will we win if we pick up Randy Brewer? And I said, I don't imagine any, but we have to have enough guys to trot out on the floor. I mean,
Uh,
so that sometimes you're dealing with things that you just have to deal with.
I love Greg Lukenbill. I mean, without Greg
Oh
Lukenbill, we're
yeah.
not. Can you imagine how different your life would have been? You would have never been out in California. You would have been still in the Midwest, and who knows what. But you would have never made it out west without Greg Lukenbill. I do know that.
No, he's this city really owes him. I think he and Joe Benvenuti. I mean, they really went out on a limb, fought politicians, got things done, and no, maybe more than anybody. Luke is a real hero.
We got a question. What would be the keys to tonight's game? I've always thought scoring more points than the other team is the number one key.
Always number one, and the way you do that, and for the Kings, is rebound.
Yep.
Rebound. You don't have to out rebound the Lakers. Rebound close. This team is efficient enough. If you rebound close to the opposition, take care of the ball, which they've been doing most of the time. About a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. If that continues, you'll have a chance, and make your threes. Now people would say, well, make free throws. Well, overall, this has been a good free throw shooting team, 77.8, and we know they weren't the other night. But 3-point shooting is such a part of this team, so you have to, you're going to have to make 36, 37%, and if you do, you'll have a chance to win. So that's where I look at this team. We know the defense is better than it was last year. Not much, because it's not a very good defensive team, but rebounding, 3-point shooting, and taking care of the ball. Those three things, I think you'll win.
For those of you that are just joining us here on the stream, both Sabonis and Barnes did participate in shoot around this morning, which is always a positive sign. So I would think that they would be playing tonight against the Lakers. Okay, 3-point shooting. I see times where I think the Kings are taking too many threes, and I think there are times when they're rushing their threes. I think there's not enough awareness in certain situations, time, score, and game situation where you need a longer possession on the clock. Your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I was looking at the stats too. They turned down too many opportunities to escape dribble and get into the short 2-point shot. I mean, they're making 59% basically of their 2-point shot opportunities, and especially the way Sabonis set screens, and we've seen it with he and Monk, that they really can be effective on that. And I think that's where I would really, feel like the team needs to turn down some of those, and turn them in, because they're being defended pretty well, as you pointed out. And it's like, okay, the old Mitch Richmond thing. Hey, take it into 15, 18 feet, knock it down. And Fox is terrific at that. I think Herter and Monk and Davis probably aren't as good at that as they need to be, and they could be a little better.
May I ask a football question? You can, but we probably won't answer it because this is a basketball-themed show, and we're talking about the Kings and the NBA. So you can ask anything you want. We just probably won't answer it if it doesn't pertain to the Kings or the NBA, unless we think it's funny and we want to get an answer from Jerry. Then we'll obviously bring it to the table. That's how it works here.
Yeah, I'm very knowledgeable in football. I mean, I watch everybody close except the New York Giants. For some reason, I just
that's your problem. That's your problem.
Yeah.
Well, they are going to be in the playoffs, it looks like, Jerry. So, I would hope that if they do make the playoffs, you would at least watch maybe the first quarter when they have to play at San Francisco and they'll get their ass kicked. I would hope that you'd at least watch the first 15 minutes of that game.
I will, just in your honor. I will. And I have to say I kind of like to see, because Daniel Jones has taken so much criticism over the years. It'd be nice, just for him, I think, as much as anything, and the new coach. So yeah, a lot of good stories in the NFL.
I used to love when we'd be on the West Coast somewhere, and I wouldn't be on the plane going to the next game. And Jerry would go, where are you going?" I go, "I'm flying to New York tonight for the game tomorrow. I'll see you. I'll see you on Monday morning."
That
And
was that was
I would literally fly all night across country, go to the game. I wouldn't even bring anything. I'd have the team take my bags to the next hotel that we're next city, and
yeah.
I would just, if it was the wintertime, which it was, I would carry my jacket, and that's it. I wouldn't have anything else. And I would go take the train from JFK right into the city, and then take the bus to the stadium, meet my brother. Then my brother would drop me back off the airport. I'd fly all the way back across the country and do the game the next night. Jerry would like, "Man, there's something wrong with you." And I would like, "Yeah, I know
Well,
there is something wrong with me, but I can't help it."
yeah, it really is. I can't explain it. I didn't understand it, but you always showed up and you're ready to do your work. So I thought,
Yeah.
well, he's weird, but he's
Yeah.
prepared to do his job. That's all I can go on.
Hey, Anita's got a very good question about Wayman Tisdale. Anita, I think we all love watching Wayman, but more than anything, Anita, we love being around Wayman Tisdale. Wayman and his family, Regina and their family, they were the salt of the earth. If you didn't like Wayman Tisdale, something was wrong with you. All right, you had a problem if you didn't think Wayman was a good person, or you didn't like Tizzy. What were some of your Tizzy? What do you remember the most about Tizzy?
Well, just kind of like, I mean, he was a delight. I mean, absolute delight to be around and to coach. I mean, he was truly coachable, a terrific player. I mean, he probably didn't have the kind of career he wanted to have or thought maybe he would coming out of Oklahoma as the second pick in the draft by the Pacers. But, he'd get you 20 every night and put that big butt on his defenders down there on the post. And, you couldn't get the tizzy flip, just
No.
couldn't get it. And no, I mean, gosh, the guy was, teammates loved him. It's like
Yep.
you said. I mean, really, there of all we've had some terrific guys over the years, and the 35 years I've been around
Yep.
the team, and any ranking, he'd be right near the top. If not, I mean, he's right there. I mean, he's in the
Yep.
Vlade category
Yep.
of just, you know, salt of the earth for sure.
I would say this about Tizzy, and I know people are going to think this is, I'm sliding negative. He's one of my all-time favorite people. Forget about basketball players. Basketball has nothing to do with it. He's one of my all-time favorite people I've ever met.
Hmm.
Tizzy was a three-time All-American coming out of Oklahoma. He was Mr. Oklahoma basketball. He was Mr. Sooner. He was one of the best college players really ever.
Ever.
And I believe that his love of music, which he ended up having a tremendous career, I think his passion really, when I got to know him and you got to know him, his passion was not playing basketball. He was a basketball player whose passion was music. And he used to take his bass guitar on all the road
Oh
trips.
yeah.
And I again, I'm not trying to be negative here because I love the man to death. He was great. But I just always felt that he's a basketball player whose first love and passion really is music.
Yeah, and I don't think he denied that. I always respected that about him. I mean, he certainly was a professional back, but that fueled and his main love, which was music.
Yeah.
Basketball allowed him to really pursue and finance his first love, and I see nothing wrong with that. I think I know people, buddies I grew up with that were insurance agents that did it so they could play slow pitch softball year round,
Hmm.
or golf. And,
Sure.
and I mean, to me, the only thing he was straight up, and he was at practice every day. Could he have been a little bit better player had he that been his first love? Sure, I believe that, but now, honest to the core, you knew. You knew that was his love, but he'd give you what he had as a basketball player.
Anita, I'm so happy that you said that. When I hear a song by Tizzy, I automatically put a smile on my face because it makes me remember him. And he was as good as it gets. Jerry, so fun doing this with you each and every week. And Merry Christmas to you and the family. And we'll look forward to talking to you next week and enjoy watching the game tonight.
We'll hopefully enjoy watching the game and hopefully have some good things to talk about. And as I've said many times, I wish the Lakers nothing but the worst. and you just can't beat them often enough or bad enough suit me. So I hope I've made that perfectly clear.
Kobe Bryant, rest his heart.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know about you, but for me, over the years, and I did the games for 32 years, there was no player that gave the Kings more misery, more heartache than Kobe Bryant. Yes, I'm well aware that Robert Horry made the shot in
Mm-hmm.
Game 4, but I can't even begin to count the number of times Kobe Bryant beat the Kings and many times beat them on the very last shot.
Oh, and just such a fierce competitor. I mean, the only guy, he's like Jordan that way. He really was. I mean,
Yeah.
you knew, every basketball was his life. 24
Mhm.
hours a day. And such a sad, sad thing because he was, you know, he's kind of like a Tiger Woods of basketball that all the young players, were really getting to use him as a mentor. And he enjoyed that. I think had mellowed a lot that, boy, he just destroyed the Kings.
Sure
That's the
did.
bottom line. Is I admired his play, not when he played the Kings, but sure, it's kind of like Devin. I always call Devin Booker the junior varsity version of Kobe. He's a smaller, but
Yeah.
he's a devastating scorer.
Yeah. All right, Jerry. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great
Next
Christmas.
week,
Take
take
care.
care.
Yep. All right. Good stuff with Jerry Reynolds right here. Hey, want to let you know before we get to Ryan and Sacktown, we're also brought to you by Fosters and Paws. And they are a group of animal advocates. They do a fabulous job, and you see the website right there on your screen. But they work hard to save lives. They primarily focus on vulnerable dogs in shelters. They pull a lot of pregnant moms, nursing moms, bottle puppies, dogs with medical needs, dogs in danger of being euthanized. They're looking for adopters, donors, and fosters. To learn more, just go to fostersandpaws.org/adopt. And with that said, we get to Ryan in Sacktown, and the toughest job in show business to follow the one and only Jerry Reynolds. Merry Christmas, buddy. I hope you and the family are going to have a great weekend. We got a big game tonight because it's the Lakers, and the Kings have had so much heartache and pain from the Lakers, and it's nice to think that maybe just for one night they'll return the favor. Because I know you and I said that the Kings shouldn't lose to the Hornets the other night, and they lost. But tonight they really, there's no way they should lose to this team.
Yeah, I'm going to knock on wood for us. And Merry Christmas to you and everybody out there as well. But yeah, they should not lose to this team, especially with the indications that Harrison Barnes and Sabonis are going to play tonight because they participated in shoot around. Westbrook's out, as noted. So, Kings Lakers, always nostalgic no matter what. Still is a rivalry to a lot of us.
All right. And again, I was remiss in not seeing that Washington came back to beat Phoenix last night. So they have snapped their 10-game winning streak. So then you get to Christmas and then the Denver Nuggets with 2 games next week, back to back. So, where you thought, because I don't think the Kings are going to beat Denver twice. I could very easily see that being a 2-game split. I think each team will win a game, but I don't think the Kings will beat Denver twice. I think they're too good. So this game tonight and Friday, because of the fact that you lost to Charlotte, there is absolutely no room for error when you look at the schedule next week.
No, there's not. Not at all. And then you've got the Jazz also on the homestand. But, I look at those games, Grant, with Denver as kind of a measuring stick, as we always say. Mm-hmm. But if this team's going to make the playoffs, because you're going to play the same team for a 7-game series, and you'll have a day off in between. But what are the Kings going to do when they see the same team back-to-back nights in their own arena? But yeah, they've got to get the gimmies on this one. And I think they probably will. I don't see them shooting the ball as poorly as they did.
I don't either. And again, without Davis, who's out for an indefinite period of time, without Westbrook, I just don't see how the Kings don't win. Now, I would also say this, my experience in the NBA, there are a lot of players on the bench who don't normally get a chance to play that much. And when they do, they're trying to showcase themselves.
Sure.
And they very often will step up and have a game where you're like, who's this guy? Or, wow, look at the game. So don't discount that just because the stars aren't playing. I've been involved in many games where the bench and reserves that don't ordinarily play a lot win games. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely, Grant. People forget everybody on that bench is an NBA player.
That's right.
You are one of the best basketball players in the world. So, when they get their chance, they're certainly going to show out or do their best to do that, because even though they're not a King, they're still trying to earn playing time on their team. This is their opportunity. So the Kings do have a history of letting kind of that third, fourth player, backup, sixth, seventh, come in and hurt them. So we got to take everyone serious, and we got to clean the boards up, as Jerry said.
Well, buddy, thanks very much. I'm looking forward to being on with you after the game right here on YouTube Live. Should be a fun show tonight with the Kings and the Lakers. So we'll chat with you in a couple hours.
Sounds good. Can't wait, Grant.
All right, Ryan and Sacktown. And again, that's coming up right after Kings basketball tonight as they take on the LA Lakers. Hey, if you get a chance and you like what you've seen today, do me a favor and hit the like button. Give me a thumbs up, and Ryan as well. And also, if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. Last week, I went over 5,000 subscribers. I want to get that over to 10,000 before the end of this Kings season, as we are really enjoying doing a lot of these post-game shows and a lot of the content here on YouTube. Friday, Sean Salisbury will join me at 3 o'clock Pacific to talk some holiday. And Sean has got an amazing perspective, and he had a life-changing experience on Christmas morning a couple of years ago. It changed his life. It changed another individual's life. It's one of the great stories that I've ever heard. We'll go over that with Sean on Friday and talk some football as well. So we got a busy couple of days, but tonight, right after the Kings and the Lakers, we'll be right here. I'm getting ready to get over on Listen App. Hope you can join me on that. Make it a great evening. Enjoy the game tonight. And again, Ryan and I will be with you following Kings basketball. So long, and thank you very much for joining us right here on If You Don't Like That with Grant Napier. Bye-bye.